All right, morning, everyone. I just wanted to let everyone know that this is being streamed live to YouTube. We're more than happy to provide the link to the YouTube channel, but please don't have the YouTube link open because then you're going to get kind of a echo reverb feedback from hearing it infinitely repeating.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're waiting for a quorum, so I see like about maybe 2 board members here. Oh, 3.
Ah, we're here.
We begin shortly.
So little known fact. Not that anybody's interested, but true or false, when was my hair as long as Deja's?
Oh, wow.
Last year, last June.
Yeah, 50 years ago.
Wow. Joanne, did we say that do we have quorum?
Not at the moment.
Okay. We just need one more. I know Wanda will be joining us.
Well, not
Will
that
not?
it would, don't we have
She
8?
should be.
Don't we have 8 people on the board now?
Is that something?
Don't we have 8 people on the board now?
Yes.
And 4 of us are here.
Well, so I can provide that update. Are you including Dr. Carter?
No.
No, you are not. Okay, so okay. All right. So here's Tori. We do have 50% then. We have 4. Is Liz on?
Yes, she is.
Oh, here's Ebony. Okay. All right. We are good.
You were just going to ask me about quorum?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. Zach was right. It's 50 plus 1. So I think we need 5. Which we do. And then Amaha will be joining us. He just let me know he will be joining us. So we are good.
And if there's any of the presentation materials that you want me to screen share during the meeting, just let me know. I have all the stuff up on the second screen.
Okay. So Amaha and Wanda just hopped on.
Greetings, everybody.
Hi, welcome back.
Hey, give thanks. Hey, Omaha. What's going on? You all right? I'm good. I saw you on the flyer. I see you teaching the class in my neck of the woods. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's
Hey, you
super
gotta come
exciting.
through.
Yeah.
Like we're I'd love to have you come talk to the class and see like yeah. We definitely
For
gotta
sure.
catch up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do we just want to call the meeting to order? And then we didn't call the meeting to order yet, right?
Nope, not
Okay.
yet. Were you ready?
Oh, I think, yep, I think we've got everybody on.
All right. Well, we can definitely go ahead and call the meeting to order. Is Miss Wendy on to do roll call?
Wendy is not.
Okay.
I can do roll call.
Okay.
Okay.
Deja Demings,
Here.
Pamela Cone, Zach Zugelda,
Here. Oh, he is, okay.
Here.
We see you.
Here, sorry.
Wanda Sloan. Where's Wanda? Wanda Sloan,
And Wanda, you're muted.
You want to come back to her? Maybe she's having difficulties.
Tom Walrab,
Here,
Ebony Davenport,
Here.
Tanisha McLean,
Here.
Maha Selassie,
Here.
Wanda Sloan. Okay. We'll figure it out later.
I was just chatting to make sure that she can hear us.
You muted, Erica.
Not sure if she can, I just want to make sure that she can hear us, but okay, we can come back and I'll try to get a hold of her.
Okay.
Okay. Well, looking at the minutes from December of 2022, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that anybody wanted to make? All right. If we
the
wanna,
word Miami is misspelled.
What'd you say?
The word Miami for Brandy's affiliation is missing an I. I don't know if spell check is part of a change, but
Okay.
Of course it is, Tom, we can make that update. Thank you.
there you go.
Okay. Other than that, are we still able to approve the minutes? I was asking you, Eric, we can still go ahead, even though we have to change.
Oh,
it.
yes, so we would just note in the minutes that they were accepted with the approved changes, that we would make the changes. Yep.
Cool. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Tom. All in favor of approving the minutes for December 2022?
Aye.
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 Or I'm sorry, did we motion to approve it
Yes.
first? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do a motion and then
I motion to approve the minutes as amended by Tom.
I second it, Tom.
Right, all of us in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Motion passes with the amendment Mr. Tom requested. All right, Erica, did you want to go straight into the cases or did you want to do the executive director's report first?
let's, because we do have some conversation. I want to make sure that we use our time to go over that. So we can go straight into the cases.
Okay. So we're gonna go to Craig versus Homeful, HRC case number 3884E.
You're muted, Alyssa.
Just kidding. Sorry, guys. I was on a roll there. So Craig, 3884 3884E is an employment case presented before the board for conciliation. This was a matter of race discrimination. The complainant alleged that he was being given different terms and conditions of his employment than his other colleagues of the different race. There was some preliminary investigation that happened, but ultimately, the respondent and complainant decided to conciliate. Do you guys have the agreement before you? Okay, were there any questions about the agreement or the amount of the process? As you can see before you, it's pretty simple. There is a non-disclosure agreement, so the complainant is not to discuss any of the ins and outs of this agreement. Of course, with typical HRC agreements, it will be monitored for the matter of 12 months. And then as we can see, Mr. Craig will be receiving some monetary compensation agreed upon by the two parties. So I'm asking that the board approve this conciliation.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, to the board. We're looking to see, we're gonna approve. Does anyone approve the minutes for case number 3884E?
I move to approve the conciliation agreement in case 3884E.
Anybody second it?
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
agree, disagree? Nope, all right, motion passes. Case number 3884E. Now we have HRC case number 3877H.
That is me again. That is going to be Turner VPK Management. This was a housing case based off of sex and harassment in this case. We did go through and end up, I'm not sure if you guys remember, we did get a probable cause finding on this case. We were looking to go to hearing, but after the probable cause finding, both parties did come to an agreement. This does not have a non-disclosure, but this one does include the typical non-discrimination policies on top of the monetary compensation. And so this would, this conciliation would be in lieu of the public hearing. Again, we did find probable cause for the sexual harassment quite a few months ago. And ask for the board to approve the conciliation.
All right. Do we have someone to move to approve the conciliation for case number 3877H?
So moved.
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Now on to HR case number 3901H.
Good morning, everyone. So for this, this final investigative report, the complaint itself, the summary of the investigation might take a little bit, but I'm going to run through exactly why I'm proposing a no probable cause pretty quickly. So this is a complaint, housing complaint, Stephen Burchett v. GDPM and Shelley Burnett. This was based on disability and race and color. Under Dayton Revised Code 3205A1 and 3205A5, and I am proposing no probable cause. On May 24th, 2022, complainant Steve Burchett submitted a housing complaint, and the premise of this complaint is that Mr. Burchett was evicted due to his race, color, and disability, and discriminated against by GDPM, and was denied a reasonable accommodation because of his disability. On or about February 13th, 2020, Mr. Burchett executed a lease whereby he became a tenant of 50 Central Avenue in Dayton, Ohio, a GDPM managed property. Mr. Burchett alleges that he's a veteran that suffers from a disabling condition that prevents him from saying no to the requests of others. Mr. Burchett alleges that the other tenants pushed their way into his apartment to do drugs and commit other program violations. Mr. Burchett alleges that he reported these issues to management, but his complaints went unanswered. Mr. Burchett further alleges that the behavior of the other tenants caused him to begin using drugs again. March 8th, 2022, City Dayton police were on site at Mr. Burchett's apartment conducting a follow-up investigation. Over the course of that investigation, officers observed a chemical residue on a plate in the apartment and secured the plate as evidence. Per the police report, Mr. Burchett informed the officers that he had previously used methamphetamine, an illegal narcotic, in the apartment that traces of the methamphetamine might still be in the apartment. Chemical analysis revealed that the chemical residue was methamphetamine. April 5th, 2022, Mr. Burchett was evicted for criminal drug activity. Mr. Burchett asserts that tenants of other races who were not evicted also had drug paraphernalia in their apartments and also used drugs. Per Mr. Burchett, the reason for this eviction was his race and color. Mr. Burchett thinks that GDPM property manager Shelley Burnett thinks he heard her say, "You're right, your white privilege stops here." The respondents in a position statement submitted by counsel deny any allegations of discrimination based on race, color, or disability. Per the respondent's position statement, GDPM does not house any individuals that have had a felony conviction within 5 years. Respondents assert that despite their right to deny complainant housing on the basis of his 2017 felony drug conviction, complainant was housed on February 13, 2020 after a reevaluation of his eligibility. HUD requires all public housing agencies to include a lease provision that prohibits any drug-related criminal activity on or off the premises. Violation of this provision can result in an eviction. On December 15, 2021, Mr. Burchett pled guilty to a felony charge of methamphetamine. Respondents allege that although they were in their rights to evict complainant, they chose not to do so at that time. On March 8, 2022, Dayton police officers confiscated contraband from the complainant's apartment that later tested positive for methamphetamine. Respondents then issued a termination notice on April 5, 2022. Respondents argued that not only was Mr. Burchett not singled out because of his race and other protected classes, he was granted deference in several situations where GDPM was within its rights to terminate their relationship with Mr. Burchett. Respondents allege that Mr. Burchett was not denied a reasonable accommodation due to his disability because he never requested an accommodation, nor did he make GDPM aware of a disability. All right, so I need some. So going to application analysis. The first one being that he was discriminated in housing on the basis of race and color. Going through the 4 elements, in this case, there was one element that he did not satisfy. That was number 4, that tenants outside of the complainant's protected class were not treated more favorably. To demonstrate a prima facie case, complainant must demonstrate that tenants outside of their protected class were treated more favorably. In response to an RFI, respondent provided a document with demographics of GDPM's tenants, including race and the status of their tenancy. This investigator additionally retrieved police records regarding police activity at GDPM property 50 Central Avenue, his apartment. Analysis of the data provided shows that white GDPM tenants are evicted at a rate of 1.30% as compared to Black eviction rate of 2.86. An overall eviction rate of 2.64. To the extent that any disparity exists, it would not operate to disfavor Mr. Burchett. The data, there are several other white tenants that resided at the same complex, and none of these other tenants were subject to eviction. Additionally, analysis of police activity at the same apartment in that complex shows that there are no cases where another tenant of any other race was convicted of criminal drug activity or on the subject property, but was not subject to eviction. There is no evidence to suggest that tenants outside of the complainant's protected class were treated more favorably than the complainant. Complainant has not satisfied this element and cannot make a prima facie case under race discrimination. The next part that he had alleged was that he was discriminated on the basis of disability. Moving on to element 3. Respondents did not impose unfavorable or less favorable terms or conditions on the complainant's tenancy. To satisfy element 3, complainant must demonstrate that the respondent imposed unfavorable or less favorable terms and conditions on the complainant's tenancy or otherwise denied his legitimate request for reasonable accommodation. The complainant cannot be understood to allege the complaint was directly targeted because of his disability. To the extent that the claim on the basis of disability exists, it would have to be understood that to allege that the complainant requested that he was denied a reasonable accommodation. However, GDPM sent a questionnaire and the complainant did not check that he did have a disability. Further, the respondent offered legitimate non-discriminatory reasons for his eviction. Even if complainant couldn't make out a prima facie case, respondents provided legitimate non-discriminatory reasons for their actions. Complainant was given multiple opportunities to maintain his tenancy with GDPM. Respondent provided several instances where the complainant was in violation of the lease due to drug-related criminal activity. Therefore, respondent has the right to evict complainant. There's no evidence of cases where respondent treated tenants with similar criminal records differently because then they treated the complainant. Foregoing reasons, I recommend that the board make a finding of no probable cause.
Thanks, Veronica. Did any of the board members have any questions about that case? No, looks like everybody's good. Okay, we move to, who moves to find no probable cause in HRC case number 3901H?
I move to find no probable cause in HRC case number 39780H.
Need somebody to second it.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes to find no probable cause. So now we are on the executive director's report.
Could I make a
Here's a-
comment about this segment of our agenda, please? Deja,
What'd you say, Mr. Tom?
may I make a couple comments about this segment of our agenda?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about the cases in particular, but I just want to, and I don't know the significance of what I'm saying, but I notice in this conciliation agreements, the respondents are often or always represented by an attorney and the complainant is not. And we have tried to rectify that in other forums like the CAB. So I just want to point that out, and whether we talk about it, I don't want to necessarily talk about it now. The other is that in the last case we just talked about with Greater Dayton Premier Management, it was noted in the report that Black tenants are evicted at nearly twice the rate as white tenants. What that means, I don't know. Significance, I don't know, but I just want to point it out for, future thoughts or conversation if anyone is interested.
Tom, can I respond? I know you said that you didn't want to talk about either of them.
I don't want to waste our time here. We can put it at another agenda item if we need to,
Okay.
but feel free to respond if you want to.
We absolutely can add it to the agenda for board discussion at a different meeting or this meeting at the end. I agree with both points. To the first one, that we've had considerable conversation around our aggrieved parties not being represented during the conciliation. Our responsibility comes in when they go to hearing. We have the responsibility to provide free legal representation when they go to hearing. And so we have been trying to figure out a way, because conciliation can be just as I think burdensome or overwhelming for the aggrieved party, because not knowing the process, what to advocate for, what to ask for. And our role at that point certainly is not to be the advocate yet. I mean, we're still neutral. So we've talked about exploring some options with identifying an advocate, maybe not legal representation, but identifying an advocate who can help, or a mediator perhaps, right? Somebody from the mediation center, somebody who can, like the same that is offered to the community member who may file an appeal with CAB. We have somebody from the mediation center who helps walk them through the process and acts as an advocate. So there are things that I think that we could and should be doing to address that issue, Tom. And then the second is, you're absolutely right. I mean, those have been conversations that have been coming up with the eviction task force. And I think you all are aware about that. The eviction task force that was created a few years ago to address issues of poverty, right? And eviction being a huge issue that affects vulnerable and marginalized communities. And so those are ongoing conversations that we are having in the city. And so we can continue to make sure that you are updated as we move forward with that work. And so we can definitely add that to an agenda item for board discussion for further conversation.
Thank you.
So before we move on to executive director's report, Joanne, did we want to talk about the other case, give an update on that? Okay.
Yes, so Sam has referred to an overview of the case, 388.
Okay.
Absolutely. So this is the Flag v. Williams case that did go before the board. This is that case on the basis of sexual harassment, where Ms. Flag alleged that she had been sexually harassed and subjected to quid pro quo discrimination and harassment by the landlord of her property. This was probably caused by the board, I believe, in February of this year, and it went to a public hearing. The public hearing examiner found that that there was sufficient evidence of the harassment, and but found that there was not sufficient evidence on the quid pro quo harassment. The hearing examiner ultimately ordered that Ms. Flag be receive damages, what they call actual damages, in the amount of $635, which was the amount of her unreturned security deposit. She was represented by Miami Valley Fair Housing, and they received $13,700 for frustration of purposes, diversion of resources, and there was a as of now undefined damages or award of attorney's fees as well. This came back to the board following the public hearing, and the board had questions about what they would do if they wanted to diverge from the findings of the hearing examiner. And that's kind of where we were when we left off at the last board meeting. And subsequent to that, we did consult with legal and our outside counsel regarding how we would go forward from here. And do you want me to speak to what legal said, or would Erica or legal want to speak to that?
Yes, Amber, please. Yes.
Oh, so the question going forward then was this a case where the board would be able to order that this be sent back to the hearing examiner for further findings, or if not, what was the process from there? And the opinion, both it sounds like from our outside counselor and from the Department of Law, is that it would not be, there doesn't appear to be really a statutory process for sending it back to the hearing examiner for reconsideration, reexamination, whatever word you want to use. There's not really a process in place for that, but that it does sound like the board has the power under the statute to conduct further examination, gather further evidence, and based on the evidence that it gathers, to make whatever appropriate ruling it finds, including damages, without needing to rely on the findings of the hearing examiner. The board is allowed to divert from the findings of the hearing examiner without needing to send things back. And I believe that, so then the question is, what does that process look like? And I think that's where we are now in terms of determining what that process would be, just in terms of just strictly procedural, what kind of notices need to go out, how much notice needs to happen, just really very specific procedural questions is what we're figuring out right now.
But from my understanding, Liz, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, with regard to this case, the board does have the ability today to make a motion to hear further evidence and testimony with regard to this case, which they can do as a next step. And then in terms of the procedural piece, in terms of timelines, notification of, the hearing, or when we are asking the respondent and the complainant to come in and provide further evidence, that's the piece that we will work out, that staff will work out with you to make sure that we're providing those appropriate notices.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think that part of the thing that we need to discuss is the degree to which this needs to be a public hearing, because I think that in the past, we had a little discussion last week that that isn't something this board has really taken on. up to this point. So there might be ways to create a process that can kind of bridge that gap. So all this to say, yes, my understanding is that the decision to be made today is whether or not further evidence is appropriate. And we can take it from there.
Right. So then,
Good question.
go ahead.
Just in my mind, I would want to make a motion to invite the two parties and flag the Burrell Williams and HRC case number 3883H to present more evidence at the next HRC board meeting on, I believe it's scheduled for February the 6th.
And I think before we get that, I think Tom had a point.
No. I guess, yeah, I'm supporting that motion. I don't, I'm fine with it. Thank you. Sorry.
And I'm really sorry, but I just wanted to ask a question of Liz. Liz, to the extent that they're not required to do it as a public hearing, would they have the option of not doing it at the next board meeting? I just wanted to double check that.
That is my impression right now, but I do, that's what I'd like to make sure that I kind of run by Barb and get that absolutely clear. But that is my understanding, the way that it is written. It would be quasi judicial.
Thank
It would
you.
not need to be it would not need to be during the meeting. It would not even need to be face to face. It could be just submit affidavits. It could be, but we do need like the due process, notice, opportunity to respond, etc. So, yeah. Did that answer your question, Samba?
Absolutely. So I was just wondering whether they needed to have the specific motion to have it at the next board meeting, or whether they could just have a motion to gather further evidence and then iron out the details of that later.
Well, was the motion to gather further evidence? Because I know we have a motion on the table, or was the motion to invite the parties back to the next? I think it was to invite the parties back to the next board.
It was, so to clarify my motion,
Okay.
it was to invite the parties to present evidence at the next board meeting should they have it. So they had basically setting a deadline of they must turn in by the next board meeting their evidence to us in this case.
I know all the board members that we have on now weren't here for the call last week. Did you guys have any questions about what we're talking about, or any ideas of which of the two makes more sense to you?
Yes, can you give me a quick little overview?
Can you do that, Mr. Samba?
Certainly. So a lot of the focus of the last meeting was where we'd left off coming out of the last board meeting was we weren't certain whether it was going to be something that gets sent back to the hearing examiner for the hearing examiner to potentially make further evidence, whether or not they gathered it to make additional findings, whether or not they gathered further evidence or not, or whether it would be something that the board was able to make a determination on. We determined that the opinion of law was that it was not appropriate to send it back to the hearing examiner based on the current ordinance, but that the board has very broad powers to both hear additional evidence and order additional relief, both injunctive and in terms of damages. So the real question is, what does that broad power mean in terms of process? And that really is what we're still hammering out, what we're trying to figure out. And they said that I'm ending with kind of a question mark. The question mark is that we really are still trying to figure out what the process for that will be. Will it be, for example, if the motion were to gather evidence at the next board meeting, that is within your powers. If we're still asking questions about whether we could do things through quasi judicial hearing, but if the opinion of law came back that you could, then potentially you could, without giving notice to present for them to appear at the next board meeting, you could schedule just a quasi judicial meeting, or you could, as Liz suggested, again, assuming that the opinion of law comes back confirming her initial impressions, without scheduling hearing, just order them to submit additional briefs and submit additional evidence for the board to consider. So it sounds like there are very broad powers of the board, and the real question is what the board is planning to do. What's the best process going forward to implement that?
And I'll just add a little bit more context. So just taking a step back. So the board, as you know, what happens is staff, when we investigate a case, will make a recommendation to you all with regard to cause. So no probable cause or probable cause. That has been the extent to which you really vote on a case. After that, if you vote it to be caused, then the case goes before a public hearing examiner. And in your role really has been to contract out the service of hearing the case to be able to grant damages, civil penalties, all of that. We refer that to a public hearing examiner to do that. And then when the public hearing examiner hears the case, they make their fact findings and conclusions of law. The hearing examiner submits to you, the board, recommendations. So you have the ability, once you review the recommendations in terms of what the civil penalty may be, if there are damages granted, policies and procedural changes, all of that, you have the ability to either accept or not accept. As long as I've been here, we've never really had a case except for once where you have not accepted the public hearing examiner's recommendations. And so before us today is a case where the board was not prepared to accept the recommendations fully. And so what does that mean? When we had been having conversations about whether or not we could send it back and have them hear additional information or evidence and testimony, or should the board take it into your own hands, because you do have the authority based on the ordinance to not approve the public hearing examiner's recommendations and issue your own. So that's essentially where we are, Tanisha. And so we know that you are able to hear additional evidence. And I think there was, like I said, there's a motion on the table for you to do that. And now what we will be doing is working with the law department before that meeting to kind of clearly spell out what that procedure will look like.
Right. For myself, I don't feel like I need to see any additional evidence. I don't feel like it was a fair decision what the hearing examiner had concluded. So I think, quote me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the hard pill that we decided not to swallow, was because we felt like, she didn't get what she needed. Am I alone in that, or?
Hey,
No, that's exactly what it was. Miami Valley Fair Housing got so much, and I think she only got her deposit,
her security
back or
deposit
like that. Yeah, so
yeah.
that was the issue. That was the whole point of us trying to figure out if we did want to send it back for more information, or what does that look like for us, or what do we want to do?
And Tanisha, so where I was at after reviewing the evidence from our call the other day, after reviewing the evidence and looking over the transcript and everything, I felt that I either wanted the text messages using the Facebook data recovery tool that they had talked about as a possibility that she could use to recover the data, or she had another witness who was unable to testify on the day of the hearing examiner's hearing to come before us to testify, and then I would feel more comfortable in overturning the results. But with the absence of those two things, I somewhat agreed with the hearing examiner's testimony, and that's why I was in this situation. And I am requesting that we take the time to see if either party can provide those things to us.
Right. To your point, Zach. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I will also want to see maybe moving expenses, because I know she ended up moving. Maybe we can reimburse her for those expenses.
Right. Yeah. To what Zach was saying, I think the public hearing examiner in their report and their recommendations did specifically say that not enough evidence was submitted. So not to say that if you find evidence that would justify that, then you most certainly can do something. But I think that she specifically had language that just the evidence wasn't provided. So to what Zach was saying, those are the things that I think we talked about gathering so that you have the ability to review and then make a decision.
Thank you.
I have two questions. One is for Zach. With your motion, you're specifying, I think it's how, or when and how, next board meeting, have a public hearing. And Samba, I think, has twice said something to the effect, and I may be wrong, Samba, but it may be, it may be better if we, I'm gonna screw it up already. It may be better if we don't have an actual open meeting, but we work with law to figure out exactly how we go about gathering this evidence. And then once we have it, figure out how we do it, which I think is distinct, contrasting from your motion. And I don't know if I'm getting this right or not.
I think, Tom, in my point, I'm just trying to set a deadline of like 1 month from now is when we take action on this case, make a decision, because we do have a 1-year window on these cases. And that's why I was bringing that up. So that's why I set the deadline on the next meeting, and we could discuss at the next meeting. But I was trying to give notice to the parties to try to produce this evidence timely.
Okay, so it's about getting a notice to the parties so they could produce the information, not about bringing them to the meeting and having a public hearing. Gotcha.
Yeah, if we get the information before then, maybe we do want to hold a quasi-judicial whatever,
I see.
because the law department says we can. But right now, I'm setting the deadline as 1 month from now
Okay, thank you.
to produce this additional evidence.
And my other question is, let's say we produce more evidence and we go against the hearing examiner's ruling, and we say, that she deserves this much compensation. How does that affect the complainant? What can they do with that information?
Well, it's enforceable in court.
It's
So
enforceable in court, so she could take it to the civil court and
if
proceed.
if
Just
she
like
does
as
not
though,
get, go ahead, Tom, I'm sorry.
just as though it was in a hearing examiner's ruling.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
So the power of the hearing examiner's ruling, sorry. So the reason that the hearing examiner's ruling has any power is because it becomes the order of the board. So if the board does something different, that order would have the same power.
Unless you had a question?
I do. Just some things we had discussed before, and they are a little controversial. So if you think we're getting too deep, please just let me know. But in the interest of being fair, neutral, and impartial, I know that me and Samba had talked about this before, that we're asking the complainant to produce this witness if possible, to produce these messages if possible, and the opportunity to adjust damages. Should we be doing the same thing with the respondent because, allegations of sexual harassment were raised in defense? So should we be giving him the opportunity to bolster his defense and provide any evidence he may have to those last-minute sexual harassment claims that were provided? And then I do have a follow-up, but that's probably a handful, so I'll stop there.
Alyssa, we'll be sending out notices to both parties.
Okay. And then the other question was, we know a lot of times that there may be a reluctancy to participate as a witness, maybe lack of trust or whatever the reason may be. So I know we have the subpoena power for, documents. We're in the middle of investigation. Do we have the power to subpoena a witness to show in a circumstance where it could be, this table turning in this matter?
So I'll defer to law. So, my impression is that the subpoena power is a general subpoena power, including the power to subpoena witnesses. If law or anyone else has a different opinion, obviously I'd defer to the opinion of law.
That's exactly what I was going. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. Is like, what if we invite them and they say no, right? So that's definitely my question to Alyssa.
So we have allowed, our past practice has allowed witnesses who want to remain anonymous to remain anonymous. The subpoena power, how we typically have used that in the past, is with regard to the respondent. So getting information from the respondent and responding to things like they're providing a position statement, responding to the request for information, but witnesses have the ability to remain anonymous. They can, because they've given information in the past, provided that it does remain confidential who it's coming from. But Liz, I mean, I don't know if you have additional information on that. That's how we've used the subpoena power in the past.
I don't have anything additional because
Okay.
I haven't really looked into it, but I think it's definitely something that I can talk around here and get some historic perspective on it.
And just reading, I think, Joanne, this may be your point for everybody regarding representation and conciliation. While we do not act as advocates, the conciliator does provide both parties with an objective evaluation of the strengths and weaknesses of their case. It's not advocacy, but the complainant does receive assistance in that way. Oh, that's regarding something else. Never, that's to Tom's point. I just wanted to read that. Okay. Sorry about that.
So
Other questions?
are we at the point where, Deja, where we just repeat Zach's motion and go forth with that? And are we? what do you think?
Yeah, as long as, that's, what everybody wants to do. Is everybody cool with that? Okay. And what was
Zach,
your
can you
motion
repeat
again, Zach?
Yep. I move that
Can
in.
I'm sorry, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
jump in, Zach, I'm really, really sorry, I don't.
You're good.
I'm just hoping you guys don't mind, because while we get this process down, and I know it's totally new to everybody, if you don't mind limiting the motion to the further evidence issue, generally speaking, so that we can negotiate how the parties will go about doing that, equitably and fairly, that would be, I think,
Okay,
that would be helpful.
And also removing like the date timeline is,
I think the date feels quite reasonable to me.
Yes.
It's just a matter, though, of whether or not we can get the notice out in time for them to be able to respond, because I wholeheartedly agree that the statute is pretty specific about timeline, but it also allows there to be within a year a response by the HRC, which might be, we want to gather more information. So I
Okay.
think that we do have a bit of flexibility in terms of the what exactly that notice says in a year, but your point about timing is well taken. I just don't want to put us in a situation where we can't get appropriate notice to the parties in enough time for them to reasonably respond. So that's why
let me try rewording it. You tell me if it sounds right, okay? I move to invite the respondents, or both the respondent and the complainant in HRC case 3882H to provide additional information to the board ahead of a final decision on the hearing commissioner's recommendation.
And that is HRC case 3883H.
3H. Yes, sorry, 3H. Sorry, my PDF was named wrong.
And we're able to motion to approve?
He would need a second.
You just need a second.
I'll second Zach's motion.
All right, well, motion approved to find more evidence before or have determination by our next board meeting. Did anybody else have anything else that they wanted to say regarding that case?
Deja, just because we've had such difficulty actually with the wording, I assume someone's typed that in. So
That will be in the minutes. Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll. Yeah.
I know. Well, I take minutes too, and they're not so specific sometimes. So, all right. Thank you.
And I think everyone has to either approve or.
Yeah, all in favor is what the question should be.
Yeah. Do you ask for that or do I ask for that? Because I know
You
made
do.
the motion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any approved? I mean, any denied, I'm sorry. Okay, motion passes.
Okay. So as a follow-up, what you've heard, thank you for that, and that discussion. As a follow-up, we will work with our law department to clearly define what this process looks like. And then as soon as we do, we will notify you as well as the parties. And then we'll try to move quickly on that. Considering that it may mean us doing this at the next meeting. So we will follow up with you. Okay, anything else from OJI? On cases? No, do you have any, so we can jump into the executive director's report. Do you want, Samba, any high level updates that you wanted to provide the board outside of cases?
Nothing specific, just again, congratulating the investigators on closing another 3 cases.
All right, thank you.
So I do have a comment about Samba's section of the report, the ED report. Can I say it now before we go on?
Yes.
We are on the ED report, and Samba just didn't read anything. But before we go on, he said OJI additionally fielded 7 elevated community contacts where a community member raised a substantive issue that was not within our jurisdiction, required research, outreach, and referrals to resolve the issue. Sorry about reading that, folks. I think there's a lot packed in there, and I'm not asking Samba to reveal any information or give us a lecture on what exactly that amounted to, but it appears to me that there's a lot going on here that we just don't see every day, and it's not within our purview, our jurisdiction, etc. But it took some time, and it implies to me that we're noticed, we have a place, we have a footprint, not just in the Dayton community, but beyond, and we're being asked to provide something. And that something is, I don't know what it is, real, superficial, but I assume it means something. And I just want to note it, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Tom. I think what that says to me and what I've been hearing from the team is that one, there are quite a few issues that community members in this area and surrounding areas are facing when it comes to housing, right? Or landlord tenant issues. Beyond what we're seeing, where we have the enforcement authority to investigate because it was discriminatory in nature. Our team, I would say, spends quite a bit of time not only enforcing what they can enforce in terms of discriminatory behavior, but also assisting community members navigating issues around housing, issues around landlord tenant issues. Because just to put it bluntly, there is not one location for folks to go to help them navigate that. And so what we're finding is that community members are, they spend time and time and time calling folks, trying to figure out where they need to go, where they need to get assistance. And oftentimes it ends up in our lap. That is a further conversation, a conversation that we should have for board discussion or, the larger community, but there's just so many things going on in the larger community, like I said, around this complex issue of housing that HRC alone can't solve, because again, our authority is limited to discriminatory behavior. But what it really says to me is that there are issues where we need to really figure out, is there an entity, is there an organization? There's a need in the community that's not being met, I will say. And Samba, you can elaborate on that, because we've talked quite a bit about that.
Certainly. So there's in our intake, we have an entire category of cases of what we call informal complaints. These are cases where we haven't really determined whether it's within our jurisdiction yet. And within those, there's some that are dismissed pretty quickly in a phone call, and a really informal conversation about this is really not something that we assist with. But there's another category of cases where it does seem like there's a pressing need. There's a community member who really has basically gone through. A lot of times they're going to tell me that they've contacted this agency, this agency, and we're kind of like their last resort. And in those cases, even if it's not within our jurisdiction, we don't really hang up on them. We're going to be on the phone with HUD, with the Public Housing Authority, with we're going to work with Welcome Data, with anyone we can think of to try to find them some resolution, rather than just tell them, well, the agency you're looking for doesn't exist here. Good luck. So it's a lot of times, because there's not an agency, there's not that much we can do. But in those cases, we're going to try our best to get them somewhere, rather than just tell them you're out of luck.
And I will say it's important to share with the board. There have been several initiatives that the city has taken on with the larger community to look at some of these things. So like I said, the eviction task force is one of those. There's a housing roundtable that came out of planning neighborhoods and development. There are the conversations around housing as a human right, all of the work that HRC is doing. And then the commission has elevated this because they are very much aware of how this is impacting the larger community. And so there's a draft housing policy that's going to look at some of the issues that we're talking about. And so when we get that, we will most certainly share that with you, so you can be a part of those conversations and really understanding how the city can prioritize some of this work. Okay, anything else on OJI that the board has questions on? Okay. All right, Don Eric, are you on? You're muted.
There we go.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to ask Erica, do you want me to go through our PEP numbers and MBAC since Cato isn't here?
Yeah, if you're comfortable, if you want to just do a high
Okay,
level.
yeah, he
Some of the things that
kind of laid out it's an easy narrative, so I'll just go through. I'll go through PEP and then go through what he had said as well. The final month of December was our PEP Passport to Success presentation, and it was held on Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 at the Montgomery County Library. This was the culmination of 9 PEP Passport to Success programs that we felt were wildly successful. We're really excited about doing this series again in 2023. What it did was expose us to a lot of businesses who were either in the process of getting their business going or were a small business but weren't quite familiar with some of the services that not only the BTA team but the MBAC team provided. So it gave us an opportunity as 2 entities to collaborate and really provide wraparound services for our existing small businesses. So we were excited about how our program went, and I think we're bringing in our same sponsors for 2023, and we're also going to be partnering with MasterCard, who is going to be providing a workshop series as well for the larger small business ecosystem. But I think it'll be a really good program, which will bring some good collaborative efforts to the HRC BTA team as well as MBAC. So we're really excited about that. I wanted to take 1 second to go over the numbers for end of year. So total, we had 136 SBEs. That was up by 2 from November. We had 78 MBEs. That number was up 3 from November. We had 60 WBEs. That number was up 1 from November. And we had 45 Dayton local small businesses, and that number remained the same. We also have currently 89 DBE certified businesses through the Ohio Department of the Ohio Department of Transportation, and we have 35 certified HUD Section 3 businesses. to date. Any questions about the numbers?
Can you share just on Eric, just to give a quick snapshot about what we're planning in terms of outreach, some exciting things coming down the pike for our partnership with MBAC and
Sure. 2023, I'm really excited about. We're going to be doing our Small Business Opportunity Forum, which we do every year. But we're excited about some of the partnership opportunities that we have for 2023. We are also going to be introducing a new event. It's year one for this event called the City of Dayton Business Matchmaker event. It kind of mirrors a statewide event that's done each year, but we wanted to bring it more localized and entertain our existing prime contractors, our existing contract holders to our PEP certified companies or our smaller subcontractors. One of the things that we realized by trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what our primes and subs needed was that during this downtime that we have, as these contracts start to ramp up, there was a need for our prime contractors to have access to our subs. Not only that, there was a worker utilization piece that we needed to fulfill as well. So David Lytle has been working very closely with some entities throughout the county so that we can get everybody in the same room and get them working together. With our ARPA projects ramping up, we know that there's going to be plenty of work that can be done in 2023. And we want to make sure that we are firing on all cylinders to make sure that everybody who wants to be a part of the existing or upcoming projects has the opportunity to be a part. So getting our prime contractors and our subcontractors in the same room will definitely encourage them to get to know one another, start working together so that we can fulfill the goals that we'll be setting for 2023. We've tried to make sure that we continue to enhance our relationships with some of the City of Dayton departments. We've been really aggressive about goal setting, trying to figure out ways to set a goal on every project. And so in order for us to be able to fulfill those goals and lessen the waiver process, we need to make sure that we have an all hands on deck experience so that we can maximize our opportunity for subs and primes to get together. What we always say is people do business with people they like and people they know. So the sooner that we can get these entities in the room together, working together, the better opportunity we have to continue to put goals on as many projects as we can and make sure that those goals get fulfilled. Want me to touch any more on the MasterCard process?
That was a question.
Oh, Tom, yes.
Darren, could you expand or just explain, lessen the waiver process? That's a phrase you used. Say 2 sentences what that means to you.
Okay, so when we set a goal on a project, let's say we have a street maintenance project and we set a 25% goal, and the prime contractors, what that means is the prime contractors that may bid on that goal have to make sure that 25% of that work goes to a minority company. So if we don't have at least 3 subcontractors who can provide that work, then there's a good chance that we won't meet that goal. So what the prime contractors will do is they will put in a waiver request. So that waiver says, hey, we made a good faith effort. We couldn't find any subcontractors to fulfill your goal request. So we're going to ask that you waive that goal. So in essence, the more small businesses or subcontractors that we have in our pipeline, the better off we are, the better chance we have of meeting those goal requirements. So when I mentioned, the waiver process, it's not our intent to have a waiver on every project. What that says is that we don't have enough businesses in the pipeline to address some of the issues or some of the projects that our prime contractors are bidding on.
Can I add to that, Don Eric?
Sure.
Also, not only does it speak to sometimes, we may not have adequate competition and there's just not enough certified companies in the pool. One of the things where we try to make sure that waiver request does not become the norm is because what we're really trying to do is change behaviors. And
Right.
so what Eric basically said is, you're right, people do business with people they like. People do business with people they know. And so we're trying to change behavior so that our prime contractors are actually giving equitable opportunity to our certified subs, right? And that they actually do their due diligence to reach out. It's like a 7-step process. You have to call our office. You have to call a service provider in the larger ecosystem. You have to connect with the certified subs to see if they're interested and available and being a sub on the projects. You have to do your due diligence and you will be held accountable for that. So we try not to, if a waiver has been submitted, we really look closely to see, did you actually make a good faith effort?
Right.
Did you make an attempt to identify a subcontractor on this project? So that's one of the things that we're trying to change. That's one of the reasons why we don't like waivers, but we will grant
Right.
them because we understand that there are some cases when you actually do need a waiver and you actually have made a good faith effort.
And just to add briefly to that, the success or failure of this process really starts with the City of Dayton departments. And the City of Dayton departments have to hold those prime contractors to the RFP. And in a lot of situations, they don't. So there's some education or some re-education that needs to take place. We have to really be hard about not letting them off the hook, because the easiest thing for a prime contractor to do is say, well, we don't know anybody that can do it, so we're going to submit a waiver. And it has gotten really, really bad. So there have been some contentious moments between my office and the departments, because we want to make sure that every effort is being made to connect with our prime contractors. And so our outreach efforts really do include trying to get as many of our small businesses in the pipeline as possible. And now that Senate Bill 105 is in full effect, it's not just the city, it opens us up to the state of Ohio. So we have more opportunity to connect with more businesses throughout the state so that we can meet our requirements.
But and so then I just to piggyback on what you're saying, I'm sure you can attest to this, but hasn't the relationships gotten better because you've been working more closely with the departments? To make that happen?
The relationships have gotten better because they know we're serious. And some of the support that we've had from the commission has assisted in that as well, because none of us want to end up in front of the commission answering questions as to why we didn't meet the requirements. So being able to connect with them and say, hey, here's the criteria, here's where we need to work. Let's make sure that we're getting this done. I have found that over the past year, we have developed better relationships with some of our city departments.
Okay. Any other questions from Don Eric?
So I don't want to prolong this meeting, and I just really appreciate it. It's a very complicated topic, and historically, from in my lifetime, there's been these kind of efforts that Don Eric is talking about. It's ongoing, and just because we have SB 105, which is in your report and is an important law, doesn't mean that you have cooperation and collaboration, and it has the effect that the lawmakers wrote the law for. It still takes works. And you mentioned the commission and the cooperation and collaboration. It starts at the top. These commissioners really need to hold these department heads to task to do what they're supposed to do. And it isn't on you to establish cooperation and collaboration. You got to put your effort into it. You got to be relational and so forth. But Commissioner Salt always talks about joint ventures, and joint ventures has a history of success and failure for the last 50 years. But we're still talking about it. We're still trying to make laws to make it more viable and make it effective. So anyway, commend you all. Appreciate your report. and pointing this out to us and educating us, continuing to educate us and do this kind of work. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So moving on to the MBAC report, I will not, I won't go through the graphic. I think if you all have a copy of the board report, you can see the graphic for their performance measure outcomes and the narrative for 2022. But I will just touch on some of the brief highlights if that's okay with the board. First bullet, since lifting the COVID-19 gathering restriction, the number of face-to-face and counseling sessions have increased considerably for the MBAC team. Of course, we talked about Senate Bill 105, the March 2022 passage of that served to enhance the potential for increase in MBE, WBE, EDGE, and VBE, which is veteran-owned businesses, goal setting and joint venturing for the foreseeable future. By recognizing the state of Ohio's certification and subdivision across the state, MBAC will create greater latitude in pursuing municipal and county contracts, banking institutions, and other Ohio departments of development. The Minority Business Development Division will respond to the Senate Bill 105 with increased levels of business activity and new customer-friendly, attractive lending products for those businesses that need financial underwriting. The Dayton MBAC staff reinstituted the Business 101 workshops and began registering an increased number of individuals and clients in counseling sessions by an average of 4 to 6 new clients per week. And that was one of the benefits of our small business or of our Passport to Success program. What it did was allow us to connect with those businesses that needed technical assistance, but weren't aware that they could get that from our office. So, our goal is always to work collaboratively with MBAC because we kind of mirror each other, but there are enough distinct differences that we can serve everyone. While the business and technical assistance team doesn't provide consulting and counseling services, I love the idea of being able to work with a client who's looking to get certified, but may also need some technical assistance, and we can keep them right here in this office by referring them to the MBAC team. The number of new MBAC clients surpassed the state's fiscal year goal of 300, reaching 625 new client contacts. The year-ending goal attained a level of 208%. All right, counseling hours for MBAC exceeded the stated goal of 500, resulting in 1,090 counseling hours and a goal attained of 218%. Face-to-face training sessions and any questions? Comments? Oh, okay, sorry. Face-to-face training and outreach opportunities during the subject period is at 76%. That's less than 100%. The less than 100% goal attainment is due to the early mid-year 2022 COVID-related social restrictions. So because of COVID, it kind of lessened our face-to-face interactions with new clients for MBAC. All right. Despite that, during the second and fourth quarters of, which was April and December, MBAC in collaboration with the HRC and the BTA team hosted a successful Passport to Success program. This was represented by community leaders and developers, and the anticipated substantial upward turn will occur during the 2023 year with future training sessions and outreach opportunities to be hosted and or co-hosted by the BTA and MBAC teams. All right. As far as finance for MBAC, the capital infusion reporting for MBAC remains strong. The goal attained year to date is greater than the stated goal of 1 million, resulting in a year to date total of $1,242,833. That's or 100%, 124% level of goal attainment. Ohio MBE certifications year to date is reported at 38 or 95% of the year in total. The Ohio EDGE certifications year to date is reported at 32, which is 80% of the stated goal. It's anticipated that with the engagement of new strategic partners and increased outreach efforts, coupled with MBDD, increased certification staffing, and improved MBE and EDGE certification systems, this will shorten the certification time process and improve all aspects of certified goal attainment. And I also just wanted to deviate just a bit to say that we have a really robust cross-certification program where we can get an individual certified not only with the state of Ohio, but with the city of Dayton almost simultaneously. We collect a lot of the same information, so it didn't really make sense to us to tell an individual, go get PEP certified and then come back to us and get state certified. So it's really given us an opportunity to work together on all fronts, including getting our clients certified so that they can receive all the benefits from MBAC, as well as have access to opportunities with the city of Dayton through our PEP certification program as well. Okay. The fiscal year 2021-2022 annual report highlights an overview. In December 2021, B. Cato Mayberry joined the HRC MBAC team to serve as the new MBAC regional director. Following the director's hire, Jasmine Allen joined the team in April of 2022 to serve as the MBAC administrative assistant. With deep devotion over 40 years of MBAC experience, the talented Mr. David Lytell, senior business advisor and construction specialist, remains committed to support the MBAC team and its clients and its client base to deliver a high level of quality business services, support, and assistance. And while I'm talking about David, you know, he's so valued because he literally helped write our certification program. So I go to him often. We work collaboratively when we have to break down a project to make sure that we are turning over all the rocks to ensure that we're getting the most we can get to be able to put some reachable goals on projects, because it is not our mission to put unrealistic goals on these projects, which kind of slows down the process. I've enjoyed working with David when it comes down to breaking these projects down to find out any way that we can, even on some of the special projects, if there's a way for us to be able to put a goal on it, we're going to work to put it on it, even if it's a 7% goal. So having his expertise to call upon when those difficult projects come up is priceless. All right.
So then Eric, we have like two other pieces of information to get through. I'll just wrap this up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no problem. So that was pretty much the ending with their annual report. And on behalf of MBAC and business and technical assistance team and all of our partners, we just want to tell you how much we're looking forward to 2023.
Thank you, Don Eric, for all of that. This was Don Eric making sure that he got to claim his time, because we typically don't leave a lot of time to give you all an extended update on MBAC and BTA. So
This is true. Sorry,
you were able to share with the board, Don Eric.
And I didn't see either one of your text messages to stop talking, so my apologies.
Okay, that's okay. All right. So we do have one other agenda item on my piece. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who supported, was able to come out and join us in celebrating 60 years in our annual holiday gathering that we held on December 17th. It was a phenomenal event. I'm thankful that we were able to thank our partners and our honorees and all of those folks who have helped us not only this past year, but over the past 60 years, and being one step closer to achieve our mission. And so I think it was a really phenomenal event, like I said, and I want to thank the team, the staff, everybody who helped make that event possible.
Erica, we do have a video to show, so I just need to, and we'll do that.
We have who?
Video.
Oh, video. Okay. But before that, I thought it would be a good time now to introduce you all remember our intern, Lenny, who has been working so hard behind the scenes, helping us promote, create some visibility around our work. That's one of the things that we've continued to hear when we get feedback from the community, the commission staff, is that we need more visibility. We're doing such phenomenal work, and we want to figure out ways in which we could share that and connect on a different level with those folks that we are serving and also partnering with. So Lenny really has been doing an outstanding job of connecting us and creating that visibility. So we have about 5 minutes, Lenny, before Joanne moves on to the video. But we want to be able to give you an opportunity to share with the board some of the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erica. I can definitely keep it brief. It's really nice to see you all again. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the current public affairs intern for the HRC, and I'll jump right into this. Since I only have 5 minutes, I won't share my screen. Everyone has the board packet. They can follow along for the presentation. So I was in charge of kind of spreading awareness and helping get the word out that the HRC is celebrating 60 years in the community. I was very lucky to be able to create all the messaging for it and all the strategies to get the word out to the public. And I was very happy with the results. We had 5 pieces of earned media coverage, around almost 26,000 media views from our 5 pieces of coverage, and almost 5,000 views on social media from a 2-month campaign that I worked on to kind of get the word out about our achievements from 2022, some history of the HRC, kind of some staff interviews and close-ups, and kind of some ecosystem support for our media partners, kind of sharing what they wrote about us on our social media to kind of keep that partnership going. We received coverage from Dayton Local, the Dayton Weekly Online News, a local African-American community newspaper, WDTN, the Dayton Business Journal, and Curified Dayton. We had some great highlights from Erica's interviews with WDTN and the Dayton Business Journal. I'm sure she still has nightmares about my emails pestering her to respond to their requests for interviews. But I was so happy that we were able to get those secured. There was just some amazing quotables and highlights that can be found in the presentation if anyone is interested in seeing more of those, along with links to view each one. Unfortunately, DBJ requires a subscription, so if anyone wants to support local news, head on over there. So for the earned media, I was really happy with the views. We had some really strong outlets between Dayton Local and the Dayton Business Journal, as well as WDTN2. We had around 26 shares to social media, so people like reposting these articles back onto social media, which is always great to see people were interested and were resharing this content. And 3 of the articles actually trended in Google searches for our info, which means they're being viewed a lot by different people, and they showed up at the top of Google results for the organization's name, which I was really happy to see. That meant that people took like a vested interest in kind of seeing this content about our anniversary. So really some strong media partners there. Next up for social media data, we engaged around 240, 250 people. The number kind of hovered around 230 for the number engaged who liked, responded, commented, etc. We reached around 4,400 people throughout a 2-month campaign with around 22 posts talking about content of our anniversary and different achievements from this year, history of the HRC, posts about our news coverage, content from interviews and things like that. And to kind of conclude this, we reached around 37,000 people, along with an ad that Don Eric helped me get placed in the Dayton Weekly, which was just fantastic. Thank you for that, Don Eric. And I think the big highlight of this is thought leadership. We had over 5 pieces of coverage in local media and really worked with that ecosystem here for local news to kind of promote our message and talk about what we do. And when people are looking up things about anti-discrimination or business inclusion work in the city of Dayton, we are going to be one of those top results, especially really featuring Erica and kind of her leadership of the HRC, I think was a really big plus for this kind of campaign run. And I hope in the future to really kind of take the lead on that and continue getting interviews for our executive team to really highlight that we are the leading agency for this work and that this is who Dayton residents should turn to when they need assistance on these kind of like 2 different fronts here. So that concludes kind of my updates. If I had more time, I'd love to go into kind of some 2023 plans, but I'll be at future board meetings to kind of keep everyone updated on those campaigns and work. But right now focuses on promoting the Know Your Rights event in collaboration with Wright State University's Black Student Union. So I've actually been working with them on kind of protecting our brand on their space and getting content from them to kind of promote it to students and younger people. And I actually secured a story from WDTN. Carlos is going to cover us again and write about this event. So very happy to get some local media talking about that. I've also reached out to Dayton Daily to see if they would like to talk about encouraging young people to know their rights. No response yet, but I'll just send a follow-up and hopefully we get some traction going. And that concludes everything. Anyone have like any 5-second questions that I can get an answer to? All right, great. Sorry that I had to rapid fire that, but I appreciate you guys making time for me to fit it in. I'm so sorry that I was late.
No, thank you so much, Lenny, for all of the time that you're spending on helping us. I think it's made a world of difference. And so I'm really glad to see how we're able to connect and the visibility that we see. Definitely getting to, I'm sorry, I'm reading Deja's comment, definitely getting the Know Your Rights session in the schools in Northwest Dayton. Oh, are you saying continue to do more of that? Or
No, I'm actually talking to the principals right now, and Alyssa, us and Samba had a meeting the other day, kind of just talking about what that would look like, doing it for the smaller kids.
okay.
So the principals just want an agenda, kind of overview what it looks like, but they're all on board.
That's great.
Great.
That is great. Okay. Thank you so much, Lenny. Okay. Joanne.
So we had a presentation at the our event. I just wanted to share it with the public because it was just well done and captured, our work through the years. So we thought we'd just end the meeting with that. The Samba. Yep.
Absolutely. Let's get this up and running. Share sound, optimize for video clip.
And when I think of HRC, that's really what I think of. I think of this organization who is here in our community, who's prioritizing listening to community voices, taking those voices and validating those experiences and giving those individuals an opportunity to make their voice heard.
I believe the HRC has made a huge impact, especially during the time of the onset of the pandemic, being able to support businesses as they move through, being able to adjust, and our citizens being able to adapt around the world around us, even with cases like George Floyd, being able to galvanize the community around common goals and objectives and to bring about some type of meaning and purpose.
I stand with the Human Relations Council because I too want to achieve relative conditions of justice and fairness between individuals and groups in society. As a Human Relations Council board member, I know that I support the voices of the people of the city of Dayton.
I gained a relationship with the HRC several years ago. I've received counseling. I actually, under the guidance of one of the former advisors, he critiqued my business plan, and I actually was a finalist in a national competition because of his advice.
I'm a volunteer for HRC, and what they're trying to do is better the community for everybody. There's a lot of groups up here that are working together, and that's what I like about it. They're not separate groups working independently. They're all working together and trying to build the community to a safer and better place.
I've been working with HRC and the Dayton Police Department to bring together residents in Westwood to talk about what does safety look like in this community. And I think that's important to point out. It's what does safety look like in this community from the voice of the people who live here.
The HRC was created in the 1960s to fight for equality for all people, and that fight is still going on here today. Their presence in the fight ensures that all residents have a voice which can bring about change. The HRC represents the best of our community, ultimately because it serves as its conscience. Our community's diversity is its greatest strength. The ability to recognize, treat, and welcome people from all races, places, and backgrounds is what makes Dayton so special.
The Community Appeals Board is critically important to the city of Dayton. It gives members of this community access to a fair and impartial administrative process to voice their concerns regarding an incident with law enforcement. It essentially gives our community a voice.
Human Relations Council basically says a lot right there. Because those issues that affect the everyday average citizen that we have here in the city of Dayton. I am really probably more impressed with the movement that we've made with local, minority, and women-owned businesses to make sure that those individuals are getting a fair share of those contracts, because that's of course been a group that has been excluded from quality of life options and jobs and opportunities. When those individuals have the opportunity to get jobs with tax dollars, they also have the opportunity to move in the right direction with those dollars and make sure that those dollars circulate around our community. That also helps us in terms of how we have more dollars in to make other investments as far as the city of Dayton is concerned. There are other work that's being done, which is just so much. That in a way, for example, in terms of housing concerns, discrimination in those particular areas, fair treatment in terms of governmental entities, again, sometimes police, and others who have the responsibility of protecting people. I think it's also important to note that one of our major services that we also provide, and that is of our mediation center. So that space over there just takes on so many responsibilities as far as the citizens of Dayton are concerned, and puts them in a better position to find better ways of resolving conflict that does not wind up in anger, rage, and violence. So again, I mean, I can go on and on to talk about the great services that are here at HRC, but just wanted to let you know just how much myself and my other commissioners really appreciate the work that's being done.
That's it.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
And we'll send it out to our board members so you can review at your leisure.
Thank you for sharing that, Joanne. Okay, any closing comments? Anything else from the board? Okay. Deja, do we need to adjourn?
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a good day. Happy Monday.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank
You
you.
too. Bye.